This is chapter 17 of Prodigy, June. When I was 5 years old, Midas took me to see our parents' graves. It was the first time he'd been to the site since the actual funeral. I don't think he could stand being reminded of what had happened. Most of Los Angeles' civilians, even a good number of the upper class, are assigned a 1 square foot slot in their local cemetery high-rise and a single opaque glass box in which to store a loved one's ashes. But Midas paid off the cemetery officials and got a 4 square foot slot for Mom and Dad along with engraved crystal headstones. We stood there in front of the headstones with our white clothes and white flowers. I spent the whole time staring at Midas. I can still remember his tight jaw, his neatly brushed hair, his cheeks damp and glistening. Most of all, I remember his eyes, heavy with sadness, too old for a 17-year-old boy. Day looked that way when he learned about his brother John's death. And now, as we make our way along the underground tunnel and out of Pura, he has those eyes again. We spend 52 minutes, or 51, I'm not sure. My head feels feverish and light, jogging through the dark wetness of the tunnel. For a while, we'd heard angry shouts coming from the other side of the mountain of twisted concrete that separates us from the Patriots and the Republic soldiers. But eventually the sounds faded to silence as we rushed deeper and deeper into the tunnel. The Patriots probably had to flee from the oncoming troops. Maybe the soldiers are trying to excavate the rubble out of the tunnel. We have no idea, so we keep going. It's quiet now. The only sounds are our ragged breathing, our boots splashing into shallow, slushy puddles, and the drip, drip, drip of ice-cold water from the ceiling that runs down our necks. Day grips my hand tightly as we run. His fingers are cold and rubbery with wetness, but I still cling to them. It's so dark down here that I can barely see Day's outline in front of me. Did Andon survive the assault, I wonder? Or did the Patriots manage to assassinate him? The thought makes the blood rush in my ears. The last time I played the role of double agent, I'd gotten someone killed. Andon had put his faith in me, and because of that, he could have died today. Maybe he did die. The price people seem to pay for crossing my path. This thought triggers another. Why didn't Tess come down with us, I want to ask, but oddly enough, Day hasn't said a word about her since we entered this tunnel. They'd had an argument, that much I know. I hope she's okay. Had she chosen to stay with the Patriots? Finally, Day stops in front of a wall. I nearly collapse against him, and a sudden wave of relief and panic hits me. I should be able to run farther than this, but I'm exhausted. Is this a dead end? Has part of the tunnel collapsed on itself, and now we're trapped from both sides? But Day puts his hand against the surface in the darkness. "We can rest here," he whispers. They're the first words he's spoken since we got down here. I stayed in one of these in Lamar. Razor had mentioned the Patriots getaway tunnels once. Day runs his hand along the edge of the door where it meets the wall. Finally, he finds what he's searching for, a small sliding lever sticking out from a thin 12-inch slot. He picks it up from one end to the other. He pulls it from one end to the other. The door opens with a click. At first, we just step into a black hole. Although I can't see anything, I listen closely to how our footsteps are echoing around the room and guess that there's a low ceiling, probably only a few feet taller than the tunnel itself, 10, maybe 11 feet high. And when I put a hand along one wall, I can tell it's straight, not curved, a rectangular room. "Here it is," Day muttered. I hear him press and release something, and artificial light floods the space. Let's hope it's empty. It's not a large chamber, but it would be big enough to fit 20 or 30 people comfortably, even up to 100 if they were crammed in. Against the back wall are 2 doors leading off into dark hallways. All the walls have monitors, thick and clunky along the edges, with clumsier design than the ones used in most Republic halls. I wonder if the Patriots installed these or their old tech left over from when these tunnels were first built. While Day wanders through the first hall at the back of the main room, his gun drawn, I check the second one. There are 2 smaller rooms here with 5 sets of bunk beds in each one, and at the far end of the hall is a small door that leads back into the dark, endless tunnel. I'm willing to bet that the hall Day is in also has a tunnel entrance. As I wander from bunk to bunk, I run my hand along the wall where people had scrawled their names and initials. "This way to salvation," J.D. Edward, one says. "The only way out is death," Maria Marquet, says another. "All clear?" Day says from behind me. I nod at him. "Clear. I think we're safe for now." He sighs, lets his shoulders slump. then runs a hand wearily through his tangled hair. It's only been a few days since the last time I saw him, but somehow it feels so much longer. I walk over to him. His eyes wander across my face as if taking me in for the first time. He must have a million questions for me, but he just lifts a hand and pushes a lock of my hair into place. I'm not sure if I feel dizzy from illness or emotion. I'd almost forgotten how his touch makes me feel. I want to fall into the purity that is day, soaking in his simple honesty, his heart that sits open and beating on his sleeve. "Hey," he murmurs. I wrap my arms around him and we hold each other tightly. I close my eyes, letting myself sink against Day's body and the warmth of his breath on my neck. His hands brush through my hair and run down my back, holding on to me like he's afraid to let go. He pulls away enough to meet my eyes. He leans forward as if to kiss me, but then, for some reason, he stops himself and pulls me back into a hug. Holding him is comforting, but still, something has changed. We make our way into the kitchen, 225 square feet, judging by the number of tiles on the square floor. Dig up 2 cans of food and bottles of water, squeeze onto the counters, and settle in for a break. Day's silent. I wait expectantly as we share a can of pasta drowning in tomato sauce, but he still doesn't utter a word. He seems to be thinking about the foiled plan, about Tess, or maybe he's not thinking at all, but still stunned into silence. I stay quiet too. I would prefer not to put words in his mouth. "I saw your warning signal from one of the security cam videos," he finally says after 17 minutes have passed. "I didn't know exactly what you wanted me to do, but I got the general idea." I notice he doesn't mention the kiss between Andon and me, even though I'm sure he saw it. "Thanks." My vision darkens for a second, and I blink rapidly to try to focus. Maybe I need more medicine. "I'm sorry for forcing you into a tough spot. I'd tried to make the Jeeps take a different route in Pura, but it didn't work out." "That was the whole delay when you collapsed, right? I was afraid you might have gotten hurt." I chew thoughtfully for a moment. Food should taste great right now, but I'm not hungry at all. I should tell him about Eden's freedom right away, but Day's tone, somehow like a thunderstorm on the horizon, holds me back. Have the Patriots been able to hear all of my conversations with Andon? If so, then Day might already know. "Razor's lying to us about why he wants the Elector dead. I don't know why yet, but the things he's told us just don't add up." I pause, wondering if Razor has already been detained by Republic officials. If not now, then soon. The Republic should know by the end of today that Razor specifically instructed the Jeep drivers to stay on course, leading Andon right into the trap. Day shrugs and concentrates on the food. Who knows what he and the Patriots are doing now? I wonder if he says this because he's thinking about Tess, the way she looked at him before we escaped into the tunnel. I decide not to ask about what might have happened between them. Still, my imagination conjures up a vision of them on the couch together, so comfortable and relaxed like they'd been when we first met the Patriots in Vegas, Day resting his head in Tess's lap, Tess leaning down to brush her lips over his. My stomach tightens in discomfort. But why didn't she come, I remind myself. What happened between them? I picture Tess arguing with Day about me. "So," he says in a monotone, "tell me what you found about the Elector that made you decide that we should betray the Patriots." He doesn't know about Eden after all. I put down my water and purse my lips. "The Elector freed your brother." Day's fork stops in midair. "What?" "Andon let him go on the day after I gave you the signal. Andon is under federal protection in Denver. Andon hates what the Republic did to your family, and he wants to win back our trust, yours and mine." I reach for Day's hand, but he snatches it away. My breath escapes me in a disappointed sigh. I wasn't sure how he'd take this news, but a part of me hoped that he would just be happy. "Andon is completely opposed to the late Elector's politics," I go on. "He wants to stop the trials and the plague experiments." I hesitate. Day is still staring at the can of pasta, fork in hand, but he's not eating any longer. He wants to make all these radical changes, but he needs to win the public's favor first. He basically begged me for our help." Day's expression quivers. "That's it? That's why you decided to throw the Patriots' entire plan out the window?" He replies bitterly. "So the Elector can bribe me in exchange for my support? So sounds like a damn joke if you ask me. How do you know he's telling the truth, June? Did you actually get proof that he released Eden?" I put my hand on his arm. This is exactly what I feared from Day, but he has every right to be suspicious. How can I explain the gut instinct I have about Andon's personality or the fact that I'd seen the honesty in his eyes? I know Andon released Day's brother. I know it. But Day wasn't there in the room. He doesn't know Andon. He has no reason to trust him. Andon is different. You have to believe me, Day. He released Eden, and not just because he wants us to do something for him. Day's words are cold and distant. I said, do you have any proof? I sighed, taking my hand off his arm. No, I admit, I don't. Day snaps out of his daze and digs his fork into the can. He does it so hard that the fork's handle bends. He played you. You of all people. The Republic is not going to change. Right now, the new Elector's young, stupid as hell, and full of it, and he just wants to make people take him seriously. He'll say anything. Once things settle down, you'll see his true colors. I guarantee it. He's no different from his father, just another gaudy, rich trot with deep pockets and a mouthful of lies. It irritates me that Day thinks I'm so gullible. Young and full of it? I give Day a little shove, trying to lighten the mood. Reminds me of someone. Once this would have made Dave laugh, but now he just glares at me. I saw a boy in Lamar, he continues. He was my brother's age. For a minute I thought he was Eden. He was being shipped around in a giant glass tube like some sort of science experiment. I tried to get him out, but I couldn't. The boy's blood is being used as a bioweapon that they're trying to launch into the colonies. Dave throws his fork into the sink. That's what your pretty Elector's doing to my brother. Now, you still think he released him. I reach over and put my hand over his. Congress had sent Eden to the war front before Andon was the Elector. Andon just released him the other day. Day shrugs me off, his expression a mix of frustration and confusion. He readjusts the sleeves of his collar shirt back up to his elbows. Why do you believe this guy so much? What do you mean? He gets angrier as he goes. I mean, the only reason I didn't smash your Elector's car window and put a knife through his throat was because of you. Because I knew you must have had a good reason. But now it seems like you just take his words on faith. What happened to all the logic of yours? I don't like the way he calls Andon my Elector, as if Day and I were still on opposing sides. I'm telling you the truth, I say quietly. Besides, last time I checked, you're not a murderer. Day turns away from me and mutters something under his breath that I can't quite catch. I cross my arms. Do you remember when I trusted you, even though everything I'd ever known told me that you were my enemy? I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and I sacrificed everything for what I believed. I can tell you right now that assassinating Andon will solve nothing. He's the only person the Republic actually needs. Someone inside the system with enough power to change things. How could you live with yourself after killing a person like that? Andon is good. So what if he is? Day says coldly. He's gripping the countertop so tightly that his knuckles have turned white. Good, bad, what does it matter? He's the Elector. I narrow my eyes. Do you really believe that? Day shakes his head and laughs mirthlessly. The Patriots are trying to start a revolution. That's what this country needs. Not a new Elector, but no Elector. The Republic is broken beyond compare. Let the colonies take over. You don't even know what the colonies are like. I know they've got to be better than this hellhole, Day snaps. I can tell that he's not angry at just me, but he's starting to sound childish, and it rubs me the wrong way. You know why I agreed to help the Patriots? I put a hand on his upper arm, feeling the faint outline of a scar under the fabric. Day tenses up at my touch. Because I wanted to help you. You think everything's my fault, don't you? It's my fault that your brother's being experimented on. It's my fault that you have to leave the Patriots. It's my fault that Tess refused to come. No. Day trails off as he wrings his hands in frustration. It's not your fault. And Tess is definitely my fault. There's genuine pain on his face at this point. I can't tell who it's for. So much has happened. I feel a curious pang of resentment that makes blood rush in my ears, even as it shames me. It's not fair for me to be jealous. After all, Day has known Tess for years, much longer than he's known me, so why shouldn't he feel attached to her? Besides, Tess is sweet, selfless, healing. I am not. Of course, I know why Tess had abandoned him. It is because of me. I study his face. What happened between you and Tess? Day stares at the wall across from us, lost in thought, and I have to tap his foot with mine to snap him out of it. Tess kissed me, he mutters, and she feels like I betrayed her. For you. My cheeks redden. I close my eyes, forcing the image of them kissing out of my thoughts. This is so stupid, isn't it? Tess has known Day for years. She has every right to kiss him. And hadn't the Elector kissed me too? Hadn't I liked it? Andon suddenly feels a million miles away, like he doesn't matter at all. The only thing I can see is Day and Tess together. It's like a punch to the stomach. We're in the middle of a war. Don't be pathetic. Why would you tell me that? Would you rather I keep it a secret? He looks ashamed and he purses his lips. I don't know why, but Day never seems to have a problem making me feel like a fool. I try pretending that it doesn't bother me. Tess will forgive you. My words, meant to be comforting and mature, sound hollow and fake instead. I passed the lie detector test without a hitch while I was under arrest. Why is it so hard for me to deal with this? After a while, he says in a quieter voice, What do you think of him, honestly? I think he's real, I say, impressed with how calm I sound, glad to steer our conversation into a different direction. Ambitious and compassionate, even if it makes him a little impractical. Definitely not the brutal dictator the Patriots still said he'll become. He's young and he needs the Republic's people on his side, and he's going to need help if he's going to change things. June, we barely got away from the Patriots. Are you trying to say we should help Andon more than we already have? That we should keep risking our lives for this gaudy, rich stranger you barely know? The venom in his eyes as he spits out the word rich startles me, making me feel like he's insulting me, too. What does class have to do with this? Now I'm irritated, too. Are you really saying you'd be glad to see him dead? Yes, I would be glad to see Andon dead, Day says through gritted teeth, and I'd be glad to see every single person in his government dead too, if it meant I could have my family back. That's not like you. Andon's death won't fix things, I insist. How can I make him see? You can't lump everyone into the same category, Day. Not everyone working for the Republic is evil. What about me, or my brother and parents? There are good people in the government, and they're the ones who can spearhead permanent changes for the Republic. How can you possibly defend the government after everything they've done to you? How could you not want to see the Republic collapse? Well, I don't, I say angrily. I want to see it change for the better. The Republic had its reasons in the beginning for controlling the people. Whoa, wait a minute. Day holds up his hand. His eyes are now alight with a rage I've never seen. Say that to me again. I dare you. The Republic had its reasons in the beginning. The Republic's actions are reasonable. You don't know the whole story about how the Republic was formed. Andon told me how the country started from anarchy and that the people were the ones who... So now you believe everything he says. Are you trying to tell me that it's the people's fault that the Republic's the way it is? Day's voice rises. That we brought all this gaudy crap on ourselves? That's the justification for why his government tortures the poor? No, I'm not trying to justify that. Somehow the history sounds much less viable than it did when Andon was telling it. And now you think Andon can fix us with his half-wit ideas? This rich boy's going to save us all? Stop calling them that. Stop calling him that. It's his ideas that might do it, not his money. Money doesn't mean anything when... Day points a finger at me. Don't ever say that to my face again. Money means everything. My cheeks flush. No, it doesn't. Because you've never been without it. I wince. I want so desperately to respond, to explain that's not what I meant. Money doesn't define me or Andon or any of us. Why couldn't I have said that? Why is Day the only person I have trouble making a coherent argument to? Day, please, I begin. He jumps off the counter. You know, maybe Tess was right about you. Excuse me? I snap back. What is Tess right about? You might have changed a little over the last few weeks, but deep down you're still a Republic soldier. Through and through. You're still loyal to those murderers. Have you forgotten how my mother and brother died? Have you forgotten who killed your family off? My own anger flares. Are you purposely refusing to see things from my point of view? I hop off the counter to face him. I never forget anything. I'm here for your sake. I gave up everything for you. How dare you bring my family into this? You brought my family into this, he yells. Into all of this. You and your beloved Republic. Day spreads his arms out. How dare you defend them? How dare you try to reason with yourself over why they are what they are? It's so easy for you to say that, isn't it? When you've lived your entire life in one of their high-rise palaces, I bet you wouldn't be so quick to logic it all out if you'd spent your entire life digging up trash to eat in the slums. Would you? I'm so furious and hurt that I'm having trouble catching my breath. That's not fair, Day. I didn't choose to be born into this. I never wanted to hurt your family. Well, you did. I feel myself tremble and fall under his glare. You led the soldiers right to my family's door. You're the reason they're dead. Day turns his back on me and storms out of the kitchen. I stand there alone in the sudden silence, for once at a loss over what to do. The lump in my throat threatens to choke me. My vision swims with tears. Day thinks I'm being blindly faithful to the Elector instead of being logical. That I can't possibly be on his side and still loyal to the state. Well, am I still loyal? Hadn't I answered that question correctly in the lie detector chamber? Am I jealous of Tess? Jealous because she is a better person than I am? And then, the thought so painful I can hardly bear it, no matter how angry his words make me. He's right. I can't deny it. I am the reason Day lost everything that matters to him.